So here are some of the things that I've been told about men. Men don't like needy women. Men don't like women who talk about their problems. Men don't like women who are an open book. And men don't like women who tell them honestly how they feel. Now, I don't know about you, but as a relationship expert, when I hear statements like that, I get these alarm bells going off in my head. I started my career studying marriages on the verge of breakdown. So I know what causes relationships to fall apart. And deliberately withholding communication, not talking about your problems, not saying how you feel, not admitting you need each other, that's a biggie. So I started thinking, why do we even hear this advice? Because it's bad advice. It's advice that sets you up for relationship disaster. What kind of person would even give this kind of advice? And what I realized was we've got a lot of traumatized people giving dating advice. And that dating advice is reenacting our original trauma, which is the trauma of not being seen and heard and loved for exactly who we are. Hi, I am Amy Waterman. I am a love expert here at yourbrilliance.com. And my goal is to get you into a healthy relationship. I believe that being on your own is a million times better than staying in an unhealthy relationship where you have to pretend everything's okay when it's not. A man is not the prize here. Love is. And to get love, you've got to do things a little bit differently. So, that word trauma can really put a damper on things. I can assure you that most of the singles on your favorite dating app are not thinking about trauma. So, what in the world does trauma have to do with love anyway? Isn't it about accidents and crimes and natural disasters and serious stuff like that? Well, the definition of trauma that I use comes from Dr. Gabor Mate, who defines it simply as an unhealed emotional wound often incurred during childhood. Now, this isn't about what happened to you. It's about how you experienced what happened to you. So when you are overwhelmed beyond your capacity to cope and you're unable to heal from that, that's trauma. So it's obvious why children are more susceptible to trauma because small children haven't developed the ability to emotionally self-regulate yet. They get overwhelmed pretty easily, and they need that loving adult to help them calm down and feel safe again. But not all kids have that. A kid left to cry it out night after night because her parents were told that this was the right way to get her to sleep, she can experience trauma. Now, on the other hand, something really major can happen to a child, like this accident that lands them in the hospital. And they can emerge without trauma because they were able to talk about it and process it and be comforted. The greatest cushion against trauma is secure, loving relationships. Because when you can rely on someone in your life to be there for you and to listen as you share your darkest moments and support you through your pain, you're able to heal. And if you experience that kind of secure love and support as a child, you tend to expect it in your romantic relationships. You won't even stay with somebody who can't handle your truth. If he runs away at the first sight of your pain, then good riddance to him. But if you're one of the many men and women with unhealed trauma, then it's likely that you're used to people shutting you out, letting you down, and you've learned not to put your trust in anyone. You hold back because you have been burned before. And so when somebody tells you to hold back with a guy and not tell him your true feelings and not show him your true self, you're all over that because that makes perfect sense. That's how you already deal with the risk of emotional pain. You think that you can keep yourself from being hurt by never showing up fully and authentically in your relationships. That's why I say that we've got traumatized people giving dating advice, because a secure person would never tell you to avoid leaning on a man or avoid telling him how you really feel, because solid relationships start on a foundation of honesty and interdependence. But when you're traumatized, honesty and interdependence feel terrifying. Let's go back to that kid who's having an overwhelming emotional experience. So, for whatever reason, the child's really upset, they're hurting emotionally, and they need someone to help them. But they don't get that help. No one's coming to hold them and reassure them and tell them that everything's okay. From that point, the child can conclude one of two things. The child can conclude, right, no one's coming to help me. Obviously, I can't trust adults. Obviously, the only person I can rely on is myself. So I'm going to start becoming completely self-sufficient so that I don't ever have to need anyone. That is an avoidant attachment style, and it describes a lot of guys. Or the child might conclude something else. Right, no one's coming to help me. So how can I make that adult over there pay attention to me? Maybe if I attach myself to them physically, they'll help me. Maybe if I do exactly what they want and I make them happy, they'll help me. Maybe if I become the perfect child, they will help me. So that is an anxious attachment style, and it describes a lot of us women. Do you resonate with it? If so, give me a thumbs up. So no wonder we have people telling women that we need to twist ourselves into a pretzel to please men. That's a survival strategy born from trauma. It says you can't expect men to love you as you are. You have to work for their approval, and then they'll reward you by loving you. Do you think that even works? Well, the funny thing is, it works for other traumatized people because they're playing the same game. They're as afraid of getting close to you as you are of them. They don't want you to see who they really are, and they don't really want to see who you are either. And so the next question is, how do you break free from this? The only real way to break free is to heal those attachment wounds. Because as long as emotional pain is running your life, you will attract the wrong guys. Now, the best way to heal attachment wounds, hands down, is through a strong and trusting therapeutic relationship. Now, I know therapy is so expensive and it's such a time commitment and it's so painful. But for some of us, a therapist becomes the very first person in our lives that we can tell our deepest, darkest secrets to and still feel unconditionally supported and accepted. A good therapist models a secure attachment bond for you. So they will show you what it feels like to be with somebody who is never going to judge you and never going to turn their back on you. So I really recommend therapy, but it's not the only way to heal those attachment wounds. You can also heal those attachment wounds in a romantic relationship. Imago therapy is a therapeutic modality created by Dr. Harville Hendrix and his wife, Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt. Dr. Hendrix and Dr. Hunt believe that the purpose of relationships is to heal each other. So they believe that relationships are the perfect vehicle to heal childhood wounds because those unbreakable vows of marriage keep us together when the pain of healing becomes unbearable, as it invariably does. But the problem is, not all men are willing to do that work with you. They won't even admit they've got attachment wounds, right? Childhood trauma, that's for other people. And if you're with a guy like that, a guy who's driven by his own wounding, a guy who refuses to look at his pain and refuses to change, I have to wonder what that relationship will feel like for you in 10 or 20 years, because that stuff can get old. So if you want to do this work in romantic relationship, if you can, choose a partner who wants to do it with you. Somebody who is so sick and tired of his own pain, of never letting his guard down, of never getting close to anyone that he is finally ready to change. Those are the really, really good guys. Those are the catches. Because as you learn to trust each other, as you learn to share your real self, and no one's running away, you start to feel secure. This person is your home base. And no matter how hard life is, when you come back to them, you are enveloped in a safe cushion of love and support. They are not dangerous. They are on your side. That's what we really want from our relationships. We want to finally feel like someone out there has our back. Now, does this concept of childhood trauma resonate with you, or do you think it's a load of BS? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you've got any questions for me at all, do let me know, because I am here to support you as best I can. See you next time.